So hello, everyone. Today we have a company introduction webinar by Salad Ventures. It's probably the most unusual, the most modern company on the list this semester. So it's a very, very interesting business model. It's a very interesting sort of setup. It's a very interesting organizational structure, sort of a combination of administrative team, but also employees in a way all around the world, hundreds, if not thousands of them, a very unusual company. And so I strongly encourage you to sort of pay attention, because there is a good chance that more and more companies of this kind will be popping up in the coming years. And so that's not your standard corporation that you know from Wall Street or wherever they are located. So this could be the way of the future. And so I'm eager to learn more. So we had a company introduction webinar with Salad Ventures just last round, but the company is developing, is growing so rapidly and so dynamically that just a few months ago, whatever we recorded is now not fully outdated, but there are many new developments that need to be sort of mentioned in this webinar. So plus, as I hear, the company recently got a substantial investment, new round. So again, congratulations on that. So that's a very good sign. And so I'll turn the microphone here to Felix Sim, our long-term partner and the founder of the company. And then maybe let's start with the introductions and then a little bit about the company itself. And then students, if you have any questions, please email them to me. It's a time when some students are at school, at work, others already sleeping, some are not sleeping. I mean, some are still sleeping. So I got a few emails from students who said they couldn't join live, but also send me some questions based on their brief, which I will ask a little bit later. So Sim, the microphone is, Felix, the microphone is all yours.
Great, thanks, Vas. Once again, thank you for inviting us back again to this year's challenge. It's always a pleasure to be partners with X Culture. And yeah, so just a brief introduction about our team. Firstly, we have a full-time team of about 22, 23 people. Can't remember the exact number now. These are the core team members who are basically behind the scenes and getting everything running, keeping everything running. So Salad is a blockchain technology company. And we primarily focus on the play-to-earn space. So for those of you who are not familiar with the play-to-earn industry, you may have heard of this game called Axie Infinity, which allows anybody to basically, purchase a gaming account and then play the game, and then earn some tokens if they are good. And then obviously those tokens can then be cashed out into various other currencies or other tokens. So this play-to-earn phenomenon has been picking up very, very quickly since last year. We started Salad in May last year. So we're literally less than 1 year. We're not even 1 year old yet. And initially what we did when we started Salad was we were a play-to-earn guild. What that means is we bought a lot of these in-game assets or in-game accounts by obviously putting our own money into the pot. And then we didn't have enough time to play all the accounts. So we hired players from all around the world, mostly from emerging Asia, to play these accounts on our behalf as a sort of form of exchange for their time. We then share the any earnings that the account generates with these players. So in other words, another name for these players, they are also called scholars. So these are a few keywords, especially if you are interested in working on our project, that you would have to be familiar with. So initially in the play-to-earn space, most projects or most companies start off as guilds. So guilds again are people who, or are groups of people, or mostly the entrepreneurs who own a set of NFTs or the in-game assets. They then buy them and they lease them out, or they share them with these players that they hire, also known as scholars. So that's how we started. And in Q3 last year, we did a seed round, and we raised $2 million in that round with a lot of very notable investors. And after that round was raised, we then productized a lot of the services or a lot of the activities that we were doing. So we made it very clear after the seed round that we were going to build 3 pillars at Salad. And those 3 pillars are Apollo Squad, Guild OS, and Salad Academy. Now, Apollo Squad is our guild. So we still run a guild, except that we've rebranded it and kept it independent of the main Salad brand. So if you go on to Twitter and you search for Apollo Squad, you will see our Twitter account, and you will see some of the activities that we are doing there. Apollo Squad, in other words, is also known as a labor force. The second pillar that we have branded or that we have created is called Guild OS. So Guild OS is software, a web-based software that allows anybody to start, manage, and scale a guild. So you can find more information about Guild OS from our website, guildos.io, or you can also, again, go to Twitter and see some more information there. Now, the third pillar is our education pillar. So the education pillar is called Salad Academy. The website for Salad Academy is salad.academy. And you can think of Salad Academy as the Udemy for GameFi or for blockchain gaming. And the way it works on Salad Academy is anybody can just go on to salad.academy, sign up for a free account, and pick one of the many courses or certificates that we offer on the Academy. Once you've selected to join a course, you'll then be presented with a list of modules that you have to complete online. Once that's complete, you're then presented with a quiz, and if you pass that quiz, you will then be whitelisted by our system to mint a free NFT. So the benefit that we give to anybody who tries to educate themselves in the world of play to earn is we're literally giving out free NFTs at our cost, because there is a cost to minting NFTs. So we launched Salad Academy in November last year, and in the last 3.5-4 months around, we've issued over 24,000 certificates already across 8 different games. And we continue to launch more training courses on Salad Academy as well. So once again, Salad is building 3 pillars. First pillar is Apollo Squad, which is our guild, also known as our labor force. And the second pillar is our infrastructure pillar, which is Guild OS, a web-based software that allows anybody to start, manage, and scale a guild in the play-to-earn space. And thirdly is our education pillar, known as Salad Academy, which in other words is also known as the Udemy for GameFi. So as Prof. Vas mentioned, we've recently also raised our second round of funding, where we raised $13.5 million. Again, with very notable investors, both in the crypto space as well as in the traditional VC space. So we're obviously very excited to be able to share our project with the X-Culture team, and happy to take some questions.
So a few questions. So the OS, Guild OS, is it something that you had to write, or I mean, is it a self-standing product, or is it part of the gaming code? As you can tell, I'm not an IT person, but I'm just curious how it works on the IT front with something like what you do.
Guild OS is software that we wrote from scratch, and the way we sort of came up with this product was we were eating our own dog food. When we started our guild project, it was very difficult, obviously, as you can imagine, to manage people. So we wrote in a very scrappy way, sort of like a HR management tool or an ERP type of software that allows us to manage accounts and manage different scholars in our guild. So what we've done is we've productized Guild OS, and we've put it online, and it's now a SaaS tool.
So if I may, again, just to clarify for those who are completely new to the industry, so how would you define your industry? Because from what I hear crypto and blockchain. This seems to me like one very important component. Second, IT. I mean, you're all online, you write your own OS. Third, academy teaching. So essentially you are a form of an educational institution, or at least training is a big component of it. And then obviously managing people. So you even have your own labor force, as you said. So it's almost some form of a platform for human resources to come together and work towards a common goal. So how do you position yourself in terms of what industry you're in? Because it seems to be a very interesting mix of industries coming together, isn't it?
Well, we think that we're actually in the infrastructure and education industry. Well, in terms of services, but in terms of industry, I think it's a very big word. So of course we're in the crypto industry, but the niche within the crypto world, we're currently in the play to earn space. So anything to do with blockchain games, blockchain gaming, what we seek to do is we seek to build infrastructure and provide the necessary educational platforms in order to make this industry or this vertical within this big industry a much more organized space.
And this is different from so-called esports, right? So you're not really a team that competes in international esports competitions, or do you do that as well?
No, that's not something that we do. We believe that there are obviously different levels and well, these guys, there are esports teams in the play to earn space or esports teams who play blockchain games as well. But those are different levels of gameplay, obviously a lot more advanced, a lot higher. Our North Star is to enable more people to obviously come into the crypto space. And we believe that gaming is one of the easier ways for people to sort of learn about crypto, learn about wallets, learn about NFTs, learn about security. And at the same time, because of this new industry called the play to earn industry, we also want to be able to contribute to building better infrastructure and hopefully give some method to the madness.
Yeah. So we've been discussing your company and challenge with my students, and one question pops up all the time from the students, and that is, so what's your business model? Basically, what's the revenue source? Because there are so many different moving parts. So how exactly does the money sort of follow the system, I guess, or what are the money flows in an industry or company like this?
There are, so if you look at all these the three pillars that we have built so far, each pillar has its own revenue model. Each pillar also has its own growth loop. So for example, if we go back to the first pillar of Apollo Squad, which is the labor force, remember in the guild business, it's quite straightforward. We invest capex to purchase these NFTs or these game accounts or these in-game assets. We then rent them out to scholars and we split the revenue with the scholars. So that is one revenue source that we get from the Apollo Squad. And the second pillar, again, for GuildOS, it's a very straightforward SaaS business model where we could charge a subscription. So we haven't finalized the revenue model there, but we could charge subscription. We could charge fees, for example, as they use it. We could charge, we could give it to them for free, use the freemium model, and then charge to enable certain modules and certain special or more advanced features. And then thirdly, for the Academy, at the moment, we are creating these content for free. We could eventually charge for these content. We could charge the games that we create content for. So these are various sort of revenue models. But in the crypto industry, on the crypto space, having a revenue model for a project like ours typically is it's a bonus. I think most of us are actually focused more on building the projects that we have set out to build, and also to contribute to the ecosystem as a whole. I think there is, I'm sure if any of the students are familiar with the crypto space, we all know that there is no shortage of capital or no shortage of cash, which explains how we were able to raise this amount of money in such a short amount of time.
Indeed, yeah.
So our focus really isn't on primarily on revenue, even though obviously that is part of the plan. And we do intend to be cash flow positive by being very prudent in how we invest, by being very prudent in how we operate this company.
One more question about Salad Academy. So the courses offered there, are they developed by your team, or is it anyone can post their own courses? And likewise, so is it a form of selection for your scholar squad, so to speak? So is that something people must do to become join your guild, or is it open to anyone who just wants to learn more about the games?
So the initial pieces of content or the initial certificates listed on the Academy were created by my content team. Some of them were created in partnership with the games themselves, because sometimes we just needed more information, and obviously they have more structured information kept somewhere on their drives. And then in terms of allowing other course creators to come and share their content, we are slowly rolling out a certified instructor program on Salad Academy. So very similar to the Udemy certified instructor program, which certifies specific instructors to share their training with our community on Salad Academy. So that's something that we will be rolling out later this year as well.
Yeah, so that sounds almost like a self-standing, a business model in and of itself. That almost looks like some form of a Udemy for online gaming. So very interesting. Competition. So who are your competitors? Are there many companies like yours? What are the differences? How do you differentiate yourself from the competition?
Yeah, so this is a very common question, and I think for the crypto space, I guess, and this is why I believe you also mentioned that earlier at the start, that our project may be one of the more interesting ones to work on. And the reason is because in the crypto space, very, very few people, if any, talk about competition. The only C word in the crypto space is collaboration. Because again, if you think about competition, we need to break it down into its basic principles. What are we competing for? Typically in a
And that's
traditional
exactly what I
business,
wanted. Yeah, so what's the competition for in this case?
yeah, so in the traditional business, you compete for customers, or if you're fundraising, you compete for investments, because there's limited funds in the general VC space, for example. But in this case, we're not competing for any customers, because again, if you look at all of our three pillars for Apollo Squad, there is no shortage of who are our customers. The scholars are our customers, maybe, but are there shortages of scholars in the world? No, not at all. So the addressable market is huge for Academy. For Guild OS, who are we competing against? We may be competing for, let's say we want other guilds to use Guild OS over the other guild management software that is available. But so that could be a potential competing factor, where why should anybody use Guild OS when there is something else out there that may be better? So it's not something that we are addressing at the moment, because there just isn't anything out there. There is a lot of talk about companies wanting to build something and showing screenshots and whatnot, but it really is, it's really, you got to show the product. And also on that note, we all know there are many video conferencing softwares. There are many HRM softwares. There are many ERP softwares and CRM softwares, Salesforce, loads, right?
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that you cannot be successful. So if there is any competition, I would say the Guild OS product would probably be most at risk. For a Salad Academy, again, is there any competition? There are so many learning. I mean, YouTube is our competitor. You don't learn on our platform and go learn on YouTube, right? But again, what we provide on the Academy is very structured learning. And it's also very merit-based, right? It's test-based. We give you a free NFT if you complete it. So there is little to no competition. I think what the students should really focus on is potential collaboration. How can we work with other projects or other businesses, whether in the crypto space or outside of the crypto space, to grow the ecosystem? And of course, to grow our influence in the ecosystem itself. I think that should be the focus. How do we build our influence? How do we get our voices heard? How do we grow our community? How do we build our reputation? I think these are probably some of the more interesting challenges to think about when they work on this project.
This is fascinating. I mean, we've done webinars with hundreds of companies by now. And so there is always a focus on competition. There is always somebody with a product similar to ours and, for our clients. And so that's the first time where I hear that we are more about collaboration. Very interesting industry. And talking about Salad Academy, if I may, so on the one hand, you're right. YouTube is our competition in a way, as you said. So there is a lot of information that people can learn from online. But the challenge to me seems to be that there is more information that one can process. And the challenge becomes structure. How do you know what to watch? How do you know what to do? And so in a way, universities, or in your case, academy, the product becomes the system. So it's not the content itself. I suppose it exists, in many different forms online, but the convenience of coming and following a pre-existing structure. Somebody put it together for you. So that's again, education is sort of my industry, and so I see that people keep coming to universities not because they cannot take free courses on Coursera, but because they want that structure and the certificate perhaps at the end. Challenges. So the business is new, it's growing really fast, but I'm sure you face a lot of different sort of business challenges. And maybe if I can put it or ask it a little differently. So if you walk up and it's 2020 again, so before you started the company, would you do anything differently, or would you handle any of those challenges differently? Or do you wish you recognized some of the challenges earlier? So in terms of the business side of your business.
I think the challenges that we face is very similar to any other business, whether it's a crypto business or otherwise. Operations, day-to-day, tracking systems, processes, marketing, branding. It's really very similar. The only difference is the time that has been compressed. So typically, people would face these challenges, let's say after running a business for 5 years, right? Or 6 years or 7 years, right? But now we've got over 20 full-time staff. We have
so that means that you've been hiring people, like literally, like every couple of weeks, you would add a person to the team. So that's actually quite, and you had to, I assume it's still something that you had to interview everyone, or that's a big,
that's why Eugene, my chief of staff, is losing a lot of sleep. So it's hard. It's hard to find people. It's hard to hire people, and then it's very hard to sort of create systems and processes to fit them in to those processes. For myself, constantly being presented with other investment opportunities. So we invest in other crypto projects as well. We invest in other games. We invest in other infrastructure projects that's complementary to ours in order to help them grow as well. So I'm hopping on to investment meetings, investment calls every other day. I'm talking to our investors. They're sharing their ideas with me. I'm getting onto podcasts and interviews, and all this is happening in under a year. So I think the types of challenges that we face are very similar to a multinational, even though we don't have 200-300 full-time core staff. We only have 20 plus, but we're basically doing the work of 300 people with 22 people full-time based in Singapore. Again, like I said, the time pressure has sort of been shortened. So most people have a learning curve of a few years in order to get there. My team and I have had less than 1 year to learn how to manage all this. But it's not just us. This is not uncommon in our space. It happens to every single crypto project or crypto business in the history of crypto. Everything is new. We're all trying to figure it out, and hopefully the base experiences that we all have as individuals, we're able to put together and then to form sort of like a new way of work.
This is, again, if I may express my fascination, so it is historically unprecedented. I'm in a system where a college takes like 4 or 5 years just to get the degree. So we spend several years just preparing the people. And then normally they would then spend the whole life or career, building slowly the business and applying the knowledge. Here, a whole new industry sprung up just recently, and you had to essentially teach yourself and develop it, as you said, in a year. So I mean, without like, this is fascinating, but if I may go back in time a little bit. So those of you students who, you probably don't know it, but so Felix was a successful entrepreneur in a very different industry before. So he participated in X-Culture with a company called Get Out Events. It was a successful corporate event management company. And so it worked, did extremely well. And I believe Get Out Events participated in X-Culture competition like 3, maybe times 4 times, I don't remember now, but it was like 2018, 2019. Then COVID struck, and obviously any outdoor events were canceled essentially. And so here you pivoted in a short period of time to a completely different industry and built yet another very successful company. Can you talk a little bit more about the history of it? I mean, this is not only serial entrepreneurship, but it seems to me like turning a challenge, COVID, into an opportunity to start something completely new, but it is really, really new. So can you tell about your own journey through this 2019, 2020, 2021? How did it go for you? And, what was the logic? Because I imagine students may face, sort of a black swan type of event too. And so how do you survive when your industry is essentially shut down?
I don't know. I don't know how I survived, but what I do know is that so what we did, as you may know, is in the past we did very traditional corporate events, and then when COVID struck, I took the entire team basically did nothing for 9 months, and I was just constantly out there talking to people, meeting new people, networking, trying to find the right technology to offer a virtual events platform to our clients, because I sort of took a very heavy bet that our competitors, whilst they were just scrambling to use Zoom to run virtual events and trying to scrap the pennies, I thought I'll place a very big bet and say I'll do nothing but research and research and research, and keep rewriting the business plan and keep writing my thesis on my own. Took the time to think and obviously go out and meet people, and found a good platform, and that platform completely turned around the business, but still, which is now it's been run by my wife for a
So
while
Get Out
now.
Events still is on and still is, it just now it's a separate business, right? Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay, so you managed to keep that one alive while building something completely new. So that's interesting.
Yeah, so when I started that business, I met my wife along the way. She quit her job, she joined the business, and obviously as I was thinking of doing something different, she was sort of getting herself ready to completely run that business, and she's got a team as well. I mean, she's not doing it alone. So that business still runs, which is good. And then Salad isn't entirely different. I mean, it's completely different industry, but we're still in the business of human capital. Get Out was an events business, but we were running corporate events. Corporate events really involves, again, team building, family day festivals, gala dinners. It's all about employee engagement and human capital maximization, and all that stuff. And when I started Salad, I came across this business model of running a guild, and I sort of broken it down to a very straightforward. This is also a human capital business, right? It's really trying to organize a group of people, in this time larger group of people, to do a specific action, to complete a specific task for a period of time. Where others just saw an opportunity to make a quick buck, I just saw an opportunity to organize things. It's like, this looks like a lot of mess that's coming. So I took quite a big risk as well, by being a little bit polarizing, when the other I guess there are many people who started guilds at around the same time as I did in May last year, earlier than me actually. But it took a different route. They just decided to just spray and pray and be as aggressive as they could. I, on the other hand, again, having been around the block a couple of times, just decided to be a bit more careful, but at the same time slightly aggressive when I needed to be. And then I took a lot of very big bets. I took a lot of all-in bets. And thankfully, I was when I'm right, it pays off. And obviously, the biggest challenge that I faced when I started to scale was growing the team. And I think the sort of like the best decision that I made was to bring someone like Eugene on board. And Eugene himself is also an entrepreneur. He actually sold his shares in a business that he has been running for almost a decade or more, to join Salad as my COS. So these are very big moves that we've made, and there are many stories on our team. Well, there are many people on our team who can tell you similar stories, big moves that they've made in order to join Salad. And I think, it's this is the game of entrepreneurship, isn't it? You do your studies, you think through things, you ask people, you meet people, you make more friends, hopefully more friends than enemies. You build a strong team. You have objectives. You try and decide what your key results should be, and you just push.
Let's talk more about human capital then. So you have a somewhat unusual organizational structure. So you said 20 plus core team members, but then there are hundreds or even thousands scholars. So can you talk more about both your administrative team, but also scholars in terms of managing this human resource, attrition, motivation? I'm not sure what other challenges you face along the way. I assume the scholars are also all around the world, so the time zone differences come into play, probably language differences. So what are the challenges on the HR front?
I think, for the core team, there isn't any of these challenges that sort of popped up yet, because we're still a very young team. So I think problems take time to mature. So we'll see. Probably the next time we chat, I'll share more with you about those problems. So thankfully, for the core team, no issues there, other than sort of getting ourselves organized, because there are just so many new things that we need to do. For the extended teams of scholars, we've just exceeded over 1,000 now. They're still mostly based in the Philippines, because that's where play to earn is sort of most popular around the world. So again, no time zone difference compared with Singapore. We're both GMT 8. Obviously, they speak very good English as well. In terms of culture, we have half our core team is actually based in the Philippines, and the other half is based in Singapore. So the bulk of our Filipino team have at least 5 years of HR management experience. So the first few people that are hired in the Philippines are actually all HR professionals, knowing that there's going to be a lot of HR problems. So that's another one of the key decisions that I've made at the start that's starting to pay off now, because as we all know, HR people tend to be a lot more forgiving and a lot more patient. So we have very basic, I would say, simple to understand systems and processes that these HR managers follow, and they execute them according to our process. At the same time, we also promote sort of scholars to become senior scholars, to manage different groups of scholars. So there is a hierarchy. It's not that it's not that tall. It's still quite flat, but there is a hierarchy that we've built in the Philippines. In Singapore, it's mostly a flat team at the moment. Yeah, but in the Philippines, we do have HR managers managing scholar relations.
Very interesting. Marketing. So do you need to do any marketing? And if so, would you advertise? What types of people you're trying to reach, and how do you do that advertisement? You mentioned something about content creation, interviews. I assume that could be construed as marketing in a way, but can you talk more about your marketing activities?
So the goal of our marketing activities would be to build our community. That is key. So the community of scholars for our Apollo Squad, the community of guild managers, the community of people who may want to start a guild for Guild OS, and then a community of games, a community of also players for Salad Academy. So for all three pillars, Our goal, our marketing goal is to build community. Our marketing goal is not to sell anything. It literally is to build community and to get our voices in this case heard. Do we need to do marketing? Yeah, we do need to do a lot of marketing. I think if we had to come up with a blanket marketing strategy, it would be through education. So for example, for GuildOS, we're planning some video series on all sorts of social channels. So whether it's YouTube or Twitter Spaces or Instagram or TikTok, or written, we want to come up with some training material for example, to approach all levels of guild management. So for someone who says, oh, this guild thing looks like a very interesting online business that we could get into. But again, there is no structure in learning how to start a guild. Most people don't even know what it is, but it is a profitable venture if you do it properly. It still is today. We intend to teach people, create, again, very structured series of courses or trainings to teach people how to get into this space. And if you're already in this space, then we would sort of create more advanced levels of training to teach you how to optimize your operations, and maybe even teach you how to raise money, like what we have done in the last 1 year. So for Salad Academy, it really is it's through word of mouth mostly now. So whenever a scholar completes a course, we obviously then encourage them to share it with their friends in order to sort of help their friends, because it's free. It is completely free. There's no hidden cost. We don't make any money off it or of them, of the students, of the scholars. So there is no downside to them introducing us to the other to their friends. We also do a lot of marketing through partnerships. So we partner with other crypto projects, we partner with games, we partner with other crypto businesses. We run webinars for each other, or we do what they call AMA, the Ask Me Anything sessions. So it's a bit like this, except that it's typically attended by over 1,000, 2,000 people who's interested in that specific topic. We then have guests coming in. So sometimes we would host these AMAs. Sometimes our partners would then host the AMA. So we sort of share our communities. We cross-market to each other's communities. Another thing that we do is we do podcasts. So I go on the podcast. We're also thinking of launching our own podcast series in order to invite guests to our podcast. So for example, I could invite run a few podcast sessions, invite some of our investors onto the pod, and grill them into asking them what they're looking to invest in. So topics like that would obviously get more people interested, and we get a viewership, and therefore add on to our community.
Any customer created content? You have so many scholars, and I assume they also could be creating some content, share their own stories, maybe record their own, I don't know, heroic deeds that they do in the video games. Would that be also potentially one of the sort of marketing tools or vehicles, or I don't know, ammunition in a way for your marketing campaigns?
Yes. So we intend to roll out some of these campaigns. Again, most of our scholars are based in the Philippines. So one of the things on our to-do list is to physically open an office in the Philippines. So right now, they're all still working from home. But we intend to open physically an office in the Philippines. And then once we've done that, and sort of got the Filipino team together in the same space, we will then start to execute more localized sort of marketing campaigns where we, like you said, we would start creating curating stories, success stories of these scholars, and obviously helping out in the local community there as well.
This is the brave new world. I mean, I still remember, and in fact, in our courses, we still use textbooks that say you have a product, you place a TV ad, or you put a billboard, or and that's how marketing works. And now it's completely different. It's not even the vehicles for advertisement are different. It's a whole different philosophy. Fascinating. Another question: payments. So you have people working for you all around the world. I assume most of the payments happen in crypto, or are you using some sort of a PayPal or bank wire transfers? And if it is in crypto, then Can you talk more a little bit about the, which cryptocurrencies you use, and perhaps even are there any challenges? Like, I'm not sure, does it make accounting more difficult? How does it work with the taxes? I know in Xculture, it's always a challenge transferring money across borders. For some countries, it's easy. You just swipe your credit card, or you just, basically send money with any of the available tools. For other countries, like, even $10, it's such a hassle to make the transfer.
Yeah.
So any of those issues come up in your business?
No, so when we pay our scholars, we pay them in crypto. In fact, when we pay our Filipino team, we pay them in crypto as well. So we use this cryptocurrency called XRP, also known as Ripple, because it's just one of the more popular cryptocurrencies used by Filipinos locally. It's easier for them to cash out because there are basically more exchanges that accepts XRP, that allows them to sort of cash it out into pesos. If we pay outside of the Philippines to, let's say, any of our contractors in the US or in Europe, we also pay in crypto, but we pay them in what they call stable coins.
Yes.
So we either pay them in USDC or we pay them in USDT, depending on their preference. We prefer USDC, but there really is no difference. For our team in Singapore, because we are obviously tax registered here and we've got to pay the local pension called CPF, we pay like a regular Singapore based company pays. We pay them out of a bank account. So we sort of fund our company bank account locally, and then we just pay them like a regular company for regulatory reasons.
It's actually fascinating that you said, no, we don't have problems, we just use crypto. My son, no, this is extremely important. Actually, that's sort of, a moment of discovery for me. My son manages a crypto club at his high school. And so I've attended a few meetings, and in fact, even invited a few professors. And so one of the recurring themes in crypto sort of currency world is that it's all speculative. So everybody keeps saying that the only reason people buy cryptocurrencies is because they hope the price will go up and they will make money. But there is no value, sort of intrinsic value, because you cannot really use it for anything. Like, we still don't pay for coffee or for anything with crypto. It almost seems like it's a speculative asset. Now you say that you actually use it as money, and in fact, it solves a real problem. For me, that's such a pain. I mean, it's not that we, move large sums of money, but, sometimes a student pays for participation in Xculture $15, and it's a problem to receive that money. We'll literally spend more time and resources to receive $15 than that $15 is worth. So it actually sounds to me that in some industries like yours, crypto now becomes a very valuable instrument. So it's not only an investment tool, but it's actually a payment instrument. Did I get that right? I mean, it almost sounds like it now has some sort of economic value beyond just simply an investment tool.
It is. It does have economic value. I mean, it has value because everybody else agrees that it has value.
But also, it seems like you need it not only as an investment, but you need it as a payment. Like, you need it for your business. You acquire it so you can pay your scholars, not just because you hope the price will go up. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, we raised our $13.5 million in pure crypto. There wasn't a single cash transaction in this entire race at all.
This part is very interesting. So I'm not sure if you'll have time, but it seems to me like this is the story that needs to be told at that crypto club meeting one day, because again, my impression is that when they have the discussions, everybody talks about it purely as investment, but turns out now there is demand for it for some to do something real, not just sit there and wait to appreciate. Very interesting. We're almost out of time, but I would like to ask a couple more questions, if I may. So students, Xculture students, if they wanted to join either this sort of space and industry in general, or your company specifically, what might be the roles for talented students to kind of join your team in some form?
Also,
and would you be interested in any of them actually joining, perhaps you?
Yeah, now we are recruiting for our growth team, which is led by Gabriel. So all sorts of anyone, marketing, marcom professionals, copywriters, direct response writers, designers, social media, everything. And so anything that can help us grow, build communities, community managers, that part we're hiring very, very aggressively. BD as well, so outreach, if you know they're interested in the space, or they're very familiar with play to earn, or they're interested in the NFT space and they want to just come on and join as like a research intern, for example. So day in, day out, they'll be hopping in and out of calls with other crypto projects, helping us sort of analyze these are the projects, these are the markets, these are the companies. There's lots of opportunities there for the growth team. If anybody has any programming skills, we are also hiring for the engineering team or the product team. So you know, there's actually a lot of roles that we do have available. So yeah, happy to speak to them.
And yes, students, I strongly encourage you to take a closer look at this company, because yeah, you can get in, you know, all of you have to do some internships, all of you have to have jobs if you have any prospects of getting a job after graduate. And yes, you can work for a local McDonald's or maybe some corporation, but those company designs and models are sort of becoming now dated. So this is something interesting where you will learn something that maybe your parents don't even know. You know, it's interesting. So don't miss this opportunity, because revolutions like this come, you know, not every year. So this is something new in decades. Felix, one more question, if I may, for students on the sort of entrepreneurial side. So you've started several successful businesses. You are where our students want to be in a few years. So if you had to give some advice to students, you know, business students who aspire to start their own business in a few years, what would be the kind of optimal sort of approach, career path? I remember we used to tell students, get a college degree, then work for a few years for an established company, and then maybe start thinking about your own business. Would that be still the advice that you would give, or maybe would you do something, or would you recommend them to do something differently?
That would still be the advice. That would be the advice that I would agree I would agree with as well. I think that structured education is very important, especially a college degree.
I'm happy to hear that, because otherwise I would be without a job if structured education became unimportant.
Yeah, it is important, because look, even if the content, even if you believe that the content is not important, it is, but you may believe as a student that it's not. I think at least the least it shows to your future employer or your future partners is you actually finished what you started, or you're actually able to spend 2 years, 3 years, 4 years completing something that everybody in the world says it's wrong. So I think it just shows that you have the tenacity to complete something, even though you may think that you're too smart for a degree. I don't think so, but you know, most students do. I think it is also very important to learn the fundamentals of things. I think most people, especially in this generation, tend to think that they can learn more from Twitter than they can from a university. I disagree. I think in order for you to understand what you're reading on Twitter, you need to have some kind of fundamentals. And I think those fundamentals you get from a university. I think it is also important to get a job with a corporation, because you then, you know, learn how corporations work. If you, unless you want to just open like a bakery and run that for the rest of your life, then you know, quit school today, go bake, and make sure that you bake for the rest of your life. I don't think any of the ex-culture student wants to do that. And so if everybody wants to start potentially $1 billion company, then I think, you know, they need to think very hard. I shared a lot of the problems that we faced, and I've had close to 20 years of entrepreneurship, working for smaller businesses, smaller firms, smaller consulting companies, running my own business. I've been in this for a long time, and it is still very, very difficult, and we're not even worth $1 billion yet. So imagine if I didn't have those experiences, how would I be able to manage? It would be impossible. You cannot hack your way through this. You can hack your way to grow, but you cannot hack your way, you know, past actual management, actual operations. So I'd say that that would still be a pretty good sort of road to follow. and once you decided to start your business or whatever venture, the other piece of advice that I find myself giving very often, quite recently, is everything that you do. There's always going to be a critic. Someone's going to say that this is wrong, this is crazy, crypto is a scam, blockchain games are Ponzi's. You're always gonna have critics. And the encouragement that I like to give to entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs is when you criticize for your decisions, I think the onus is on the critic to prove that he's right. You have no need to prove that you are right. The critic has to prove that you're wrong. The onus is on them. So I realized that a lot of people just listen to, in Asia we call it very light years. When someone says something, then you'd be like, oh yeah, this is the way, and someone says something else, and you're like, this is the way, because everyone says that you're wrong. You're always wrong, according to other people. But yeah, I think I'd say if anybody says that what you're doing is wrong, then the onus is on them to prove it, not on you.
Nice words. Very interesting. Thank you so much. Very educational. I mean, this is one of those cases where I learn a lot too. So I'm supposed to know a lot as a business professor, but this is so new that I'm like, wow, this is not what we see in textbooks. It probably will be another 5 years before we see more on your, kind of models, business models in the textbooks. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. Truly appreciate it. Very informative. And then students who are watching online and couldn't ask questions, you can always email them to us. We will relay them to the company and then relay them back to you, the answers. So thank you so much. Good night. And thank you for being with us, I guess, at this quite late hour in Singapore. Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Thanks for having us. Thanks, boss. Bye.